Welcome back to another episode of the Career Evolved podcast. And today we have Ryan Meinberg. He's not only a consultant, a high level operational executive, he's also one of the main strategic advisors and executive coaches for Career Evolved. And I wanted to bring him to the table today because we are talking to hundreds of executives every week. And this is one of the toughest job markets in a decade. And where people are really being forced to evolve because what used to work, it's not working and it's not going to. So if you want to stay in that executive level and really compete and be relevant, you're going to have to evolve. And, nobody really wants to talk about this, but mindset is like the biggest variable of who we're seeing break through, get multiple offers, huge pay increases, and who's kind of just sort of stagnant and plateauing. So I brought Ryan here because we're really big on champion mindset, and we both happen to be huge Kobe fans, so it's like, for me, Ryan, I don't know about you, when I think about champions mindset, it's give me the ball. I want the ball. I want the ball. I want the ball. Even if I miss the last six shots with 4 seconds, I still want the ball. And that's kind of the mindset, right? Well, what does that mean to you, like, especially in this context, the champions mindset?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, it's like leaders lead, winners win. There's no way around that concept. When you're a winner and you're a leader, your mind is geared to looking for opportunities and ways to say yes. Say yes to the market, say yes to pivoting, saying yes to change, adapting to yourself to what a business need looks like now because your experience may have relevance, but you have to tweak it in order to make sense for what this organization is looking for. Um, Leaders are always understanding the difference between what it takes to succeed and what's going to happen if you don't do what it takes to succeed. And the reason why we love to compare it to sports is because there is so many individuals who love sports and are passionate about it, just like we are. Just like we are. And our favorite athletes are the ones who bring home championships to our favorite teams. And they all have the same thing in common. They've had setbacks, they've had challenges, they've had injuries, they've had things not go their way, and they've all bounced back because they understands the fact that setback does not determine what's going to happen moving forward. And it's the exact same thing in the job market. You will have challenges that exist in the process. There's no way of saying I am in between roles and it's just going to be smooth sailing unless you were tapped on the shoulder and you were already primed for it. It's not going to be easy, but no champion has ever won a championship title and said, "Hey, that road was easy." Because if it was, everyone would do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like in Kobe. I mean, why I love him, he's so prolific and he never focused on excuses. He held no space for it. He held no space for victim energy or mediocrity. And I think one of the things he said in an interview I heard was, I only want to be around people moving with purpose. And there's a certain energy to them. They are intentional, they're moving, and they're focused, and they have a vision that they're walking towards. And so a lot of people you talk to them and they don't even have a vision. They're just hoping. And hope isn't even, if you're hoping to win, you've lost before you started. You can't win the championship with hope. It's through preparation, right? And so as you think about this, Ryan, I know we've got a lot of people out there that come to us and they're like, it's my age, it's the market, no one's hiring. And, we got to get them out of that mindset to even have a chance to win.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack, and a lot of it also starts with the fact that one, what used to take one call or two calls takes more about 10 in today's world. What used to happen 1 week takes about 3 to 4 weeks. If it happened in a month, it used to take now it takes probably 3 to 4 months, and that's in everything. That's in project management, executive hires, sports, whatever it may be. Things take longer now. Things are harder now. Things are more expensive now. The world has evolved, and even though the job market strategies are constantly changing, they're constantly evolving, the one thing that will never change in a leader is your mental toughness and it's your mental tenacity. And to be resilient in a job market that's extremely unpredictable takes a very specific type of resilience. It is not going to happen with one email to one person to offer a job unless you are related to them or have a very strong pre-existing relationship that they've been begging to bring you on board. Unless it's a very, very, very special set of circumstances, it's gonna take more now than ever before, and there's no way around that. So the only way to be able to understand it is to be comfortable by doing the work that it takes to make sure the facts that you present yourself as an only viable solution. And going back to the Kobe stories and the Kobe analogies, the facts that when you look at so many prime Laker games, the only prime leader to take the shots at the end of the game was gonna be Kobe. It wasn't even close. It would be 1 on 4. Kobe's taking that shot. He's not passing the ball to anybody. And a lot of times people would say the fact that he was a ball hog or he's intentionally not giving the ball to his teammates to make the right play. And when they asked him about that, he would always say the same thing. Why in the world am I gonna pass the ball to a guy who leaves practice on time? Why in the world am I gonna pass the ball to a guy who only practices twice a day when I'm practicing 4 times a day, before and after practice for conditioning, just so that way I'm in shape to take the last shot. But if you want me to trust you with the ball, you have to earn that trust. And in a trust recession that exists that you've talked about so many times, Olivia, companies don't trust leaders. They don't trust people today in the same way they used to. So it takes more. And that's okay because it's about understanding why it takes more and how you're willing to earn their trust. Just like in every other big deal, you want to earn someone's business. It's the same thing. And most people don't want to do that work that it takes.
There's a lot to unpack there. And, as he's talked about the work and the process and getting the reps in and being able to actually get the edge that Kobe had to slice through anything and make it happen, right? The edge is earned, the drift is chosen. And I think that's the thing I wanna focus on right now because so many people are not ready to pay the price to be a champion, but they still wanna be the executive leader and they still wanna be in the C-suite, but they're still waiting for a recruiter to call. They wanna be spoon-fed a job. They don't wanna learn how to market, how to command their value. They're still on the job boards using an old plan that stopped working 5 years ago. Like, they don't want to evolve. So what would you say to that group that it's like, hey, they're stuck, but they're running into a brick wall and they don't want to invest in themselves? What would you say? Because I know you can relate. You've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I'd say is stop trying to buy your next job. Automation, AI, mass market, and so forth, just sending a billion things out at one purpose, trying to pretend you're authentic. If you really want to buy your next job, good luck to you. Go buy Apollo, go buy the software, send 1,000 billion out, whatever you want to do, and see what sticks. And God bless you. And I hope it works out. The easiest thing in the world to do is outreach. The hardest thing to do in the world is to reflect what your outreach is trying to communicate based on who you are, because someone's hiring you, they're not hiring a persona or a perception of you. I'm going back to the sports metaphor. I think a lot of times, like in football, it's called hell week, conditioning week, things along those lines. The reason why conditioning is so darn hard is because it's the element of growth that no one wants to do. It's the hardest part of development, and to be honest, it's the most unfun part of the process. Everyone likes to go to the basketball court and shoot some hoops, throw some football, play catch, do things along those lines. But when you have to put in those miles in your legs to make sure you're in shape, when you have to go to the gym and eat right and say no to junk food and say yes to discipline, it's always those little things that champions say make a big difference because everyone can throw a football, everyone can throw a baseball, everyone can put a ball in a basket to the best of their abilities. But what separates the good from the great and the great from the best is the work that goes into the unfun aspects of what they want to be great at. And in the job search, the most unfun thing to do is accept where you're at, understand the facts that the dollar does not define your value, understand the facts that no one can represent you better than you, and no one can market you better than you. So if you want to buy a software and pay someone to do automation for you, you're trusting them to present you better than you can present you. It's like going on a date and saying the fact that my friend is going to represent me better than me. Well, good luck ever getting a second date. It's not going to happen because they're not interested in them. They're interested in you. And we try to buy shortcuts so that way the shortcuts can make us feel more at peace and give us a false sense of hope because it's convenient. We want to buy something, go sit there, and then get a phone call saying, we want to extend you an offer as if it's magic. It's never been that way. It will never be that way. Executives have earned two, three, four, $500,000 a year through hard work and discipline. That will never change. So expecting it to be easy and expecting it to be convenient is just a lie.
And that's, I think, hard for a lot of people to stomach because a lot of really powerful executives, like, that I can think of, they've never had a problem finding a job ever. I just talked to an amazing tech executive. He has like Meta, Amazon, all these great brands, but he's out of work 30 days. He's like, Olivia, I've never been out of work for 30 days. I'm going crazy. I'm going to the gym twice a day. And I see behind him, there's a Michael Jordan poster. And I'm like, if you want to be like Mike, you got to get in the game. You're not even in the game. You're on job boards. Like, how are you gonna win the game if you're not even in it? You're in the cheap seats playing it safe and passive, you're not even in the arena. And then you're not even in game shape because you've never had to do this. How do you expect to win? It's not gonna happen. And so that's why I think so many people look to be saved and they get kind of they get inspired by these shiny bright objects of I'll do all the work and put interviews on your calendar. Guys, at the executive level, you don't need more volume of interviews, you need more leverage. And you don't get it 200, 250 plus interviews through automation. That does not happen. So if you're outsourcing your brand and your marketing, you're not embodying a champion because the connection is your leverage. That strategic relationships is a competency to be effective and to open opportunity at the executive level. If you haven't built that skill set of building these strategic relationships, you're not going to be ever reaching your potential. And so this is tough for people in tech or ops people that just suck at marketing. They wanna avoid it. They wanna put their head in the sand, but, I know you're an ops guy, right? How do you break through that uncomfort and say, "You know what? I'm going to evolve," and what are your thoughts? How do you get people out of that transaction mode of just the very tactical thinking?
Well, I think one, the first thing you gotta do is you gotta accept reality. That's what ops is. It's very blue collar type leadership. Even when you're a COO, VP of ops, and so forth, you're still leading process. Process is usually blue collar for the most part. Even if you're inside and in the nice air conditioning, it's still technical work that you're focusing on, right? Accepts the idea and notion of where you're at, and that's probably one of the hardest things, no different than anything else. If someone's trying to lose weight, you have to accept your starting point because that's your base of where your growth is going to begin. So the first thing you got to do is that because you can't lie to yourself. The second thing I would do is the fact that just because the dollar amount changes or someone's income changes does not mean your value has. And I would challenge executives to think back of when they were in the position of hiring and they wanted to hire their next leader. If they were to open a position or they were looking for someone to solve a problem, what would be your confidence as a hiring manager that's saying, I have this massive bleeding neck problem where it's costing me $500,000 every single month and I need to fix it now. I know I'm going to post a job on LinkedIn. You may do it in compliance with what HR asks you to do, but no seasoned leader has confidence by saying, I'm going to find the magic solution on a job board. The first thing you think is, I have this problem. Who the heck do I know? That's what hiring managers think. I have this problem. Who do I know that can solve this? Oh gosh, what company do I know? What friend do I have that is in this industry that I can steal from? I can pay them more. What does that look like? That's what you naturally think because as a hiring manager, job boards are a headache on both sides. It's a headache for the candidate trying to apply, and it's a headache for the hiring manager.
A lot of work.
And no hiring manager looks at it, says 1,000 applications, says, yes, I can't wait to go through all these. No, it's like that's ridiculous. The only thing that's why they hire recruiters and they hire people to try to do the dirty work for them, just to at least eliminate the noise, so that way they can attract what they find as valuable to what their organization needs. And that's been true always. But the thing what job boards do is it gives you this false sense of accomplishment by saying, I applied to 25 jobs today. Therefore, in my unemployment state, I was productive. I got something done. I accomplished something. And I get it because applying for a job and saying you've been applied and has been sent to this person, it makes you feel you're one step closer. I completely understand that. And that's a good temporary emotional band-aid. And then you get on this high and then it goes right back down again when you get an automated message saying you weren't pushed through simply because of the facts that one, either the role was already posted, excuse me, the role was already filled, or the role maybe was eliminated because the contract that was gonna pay for that role didn't stick. There's a thousand reasons why positions don't land and go through. But that emotional roller coaster goes up and down like a yo-yo, of course, because people feel comfortable by feeling accomplished versus actually doing or getting the value. And that's where I would encourage people to be very, very mindful of. Because if you were a hiring manager because if you're an executive, you've been a hiring manager. When you were a hiring manager, were you confident in finding your next leader based on the strategy that you as a candidate are doing for yourself? That would be my question. And if the answer is no, as a hiring manager, I'd never go to a job board, then as a candidate, you can't be one going to job boards either.
This episode is sponsored by Career Evolved. And are you ready for a career breakthrough? And what I mean by breakthrough is, are you ready to finally get paid your true value and also feel inspired and aligned with your work, aligned with the leadership team, and actually getting the purpose and the impact that makes you feel fulfilled at the end of your workday? If so, I would encourage you to schedule a free 1 hour breakthrough session with us to get to the bottom of what are the key gaps that are stopping you from making this breakthrough? What are your goals? And then once we get clarity on that, if we can help, we'll tell you exactly how. If not, you'll still leave with value and clarity. And this is a free 1 hour consultation. We do need to make sure you're qualified for this. We are targeting those who have executive level management leadership skills. Those are the best fit and alignment for the Career Evolved process and community. So if this sounds like you, go ahead and head to www.careerevolved.com/schedule. That's www.careerevolved.com/schedule. Go ahead, select a time, answer the questions, and we will go deep and we will get to the truth on what's stopping you and plan the next steps from there. Now I'll let you get back to the podcast. I mean, and not only that, AI has disrupted the job board where it's become impossible to get executive offers because AI applies to hundreds of jobs at the click of a mouse. So in hours, they have hundreds of candidates. It's just, and everyone at this level is qualified. So that's not even a real strategy because 80% of the jobs aren't posted. So you're not tapping in to that 150 plus market if you're relying on job boards. So if you still are in that game, you're not even in the game, let alone in game shape. So I bring this up because it's just so hard for people to accept this, and this is a big shift to get into the champion mindset. You gotta get out of the old mindset of entitlement. I'm gonna just call a recruiter, they're gonna look for a job for me because that's what most executives do. They think, "Let me update my resume. My resume is gonna do the heavy lifting because 'cause I've got all this clout on my resume." And then they think, "Let me just call a couple executive recruiters and I'm good to go." And maybe in the past, that's how easy it's been, right? That's not so much the case. There's a higher price to success right now, and I know, Ryan, that's not always an easy shift to go from, and I don't enroll entitled executives into our program because 'cause they're just not ready, and I'm here for people that are committed to the pay the price of success. Because the real deal leaders know you've gotta take ownership.
And I think also the price of success i- changes because the market's constantly changing. Just like going back to sports, the game's always changing. It's up to you to evolve to what the sporting demands are now compared to what they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I think the fact that there's this notion that AI makes life easier as if AI doesn't work both ways. So if you're buying a software where AI applies for you, then me as a hiring manager and I know AI is applying for jobs for people that the people don't even know are being applied for them, then by default I also eliminate it too because I've got no interest in talking to those people. Because as a hiring manager, I have no interest in talking to someone who is not intentionally pursuing my company and what's better for my brand and how it's going to make me more money as a leader. No interest. If you got that opportunity because a robot applied for you, it automatically goes away because there's self-respect on what I want from that leader because I want them to be intentional about the problems that are important to me. So AI works both sides. We're saying we'll apply for you, but if you really believe that that is the solution, then my challenge to that person would be, as a hiring manager, would you accept that if a candidate came to you by saying, "Well, jobs.ai did this for me?" Would you feel that that leader really cares about the problems you're facing and they want to solve it? Or would you think, "Well, jobs.ai is just doing whatever they want for them and they couldn't care less about my organizational challenges?"
It's
It just goes both ways.
and guys, I wanna empathize with anybody that wants to outsource this because it's a lot of work, and I've been there. I've been fooled by these tech wizards that are so smart and charming at speaking, and they tell me, "Oh, I'm just gonna send 100,000 emails automation. You're gonna blow up your calendar. Everything's gonna be so busy," and hype, 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 hype. If it sounds too good and too easy, it's not true in this market. We're in a trust recession. I have sent out 100,000 emails. Not one call was booked that was qualified. It is not working. People need to feel the intention. You cannot volume template. It's white noise. And so you don't need more volume, you need more leverage. Champions know that. Champions are ready to do the work to become the person who can command the value. If you need someone else to get them on the phone, that's not your opportunity. And I hate to say it that way. You might need to meditate on that for a second because it's really true. If you can't even get them on the phone, do you really think you're ready to close the deal?
Well, I think one thing to even double down more on that you just said is the fact that leverage is subjective. So in order to get the leverage necessary, your resume 10 years ago was the tool that got you leverage. Now, a resume is an aspect for leverage, but the one who really creates it is the leader. Because before, you could leverage your resume to say why it's applicable to that position. But going back to how trust works, people leverage resumes to check the box. So it's important that they're done right, of course. But the leverage comes from the how you can create value and bridge the gap from that resume to the hiring manager's needs to go deep on the pain on why you're valuable. And the reason why execs usually struggle with that is because that's work in a layer that you're not used to doing. You're used to being able to say, I applied for this company in this industry with this brand. My experience at this company, this industry, and this brand is relevant to you. That's supposed to wow you for you to see my value. And unfortunately, that did work in the past, but in today's world, it requires so much more because now the question is asked, well, how does your past experience impact me? And execs oftentimes don't know how to answer that question because they're not used to answering that question because you're used to letting the clout of your experience be enough. And that goes back to the Kobe Bryant metaphor in sports and so forth that leaders evolve because they know they have to do more. And doing more is scary. So when they start to hit resistance, you start doubting the process versus understanding that unfortunately the challenge is the individual. And I think that's why as career evolved, so many clients come in saying, I don't need mindset. I just need you to help me get the job. And then after they're successful, they go back and say, it was the mindset.
Yep.
Simply because you don't put the two and two together
Mm-mm.
when you need a job, you put it together after you realize how you landed the job.
Yep. You're so right. And, I know we've got a few minutes left, so I want to just people need to see winners right now because there's plenty of people crying about how hard it is. We work with the leaders who really are ready to win and in the top 10% of the United States. So I'm really proud of all the breakthroughs we're seeing over here every day. Ryan has a front row seat to so many life-changing breakthroughs. Ryan, just in the last couple weeks, what are a couple wins, your breakthroughs with your clients you're excited to share? Just a couple that come to mind.
Well, I think a lot of them, is based on what phase they're at in the program. I can start off with one client who had a phenomenal breakthrough in phase 1 by understanding the difference between attachment to detachment, which was fantastic. I don't wanna mention names, of course, but she was beyond excited to share that feedback by that great conversation that she had. Then you have another client who had an outstanding interview and is looking forward to already who got the confirmation that they're moving forward to the next round. And then, of course, you have another client who's in phase 4 who had their final round and is expecting the offer to come this week because they were already told verbally. And of course, you have another client who we celebrated just earlier today, who sealed the deal inside the dotted line. So I think what we're seeing is clients at different phases within the process, which is good because it's a pleasure to be able to see the involvement go from start to finish. Um, and then the other thing that's super important, what we're seeing is teaching people to understand that the small wins give birth to the big wins. You can't just celebrate when you win the title. You have to celebrate a season win and then a playoff win in order to get to the championship win because it does build. And if you only see success as the championship, then every single athlete has majority of their career has had a failing season. And that's just not true. So we're celebrating clients through phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. But of course, our favorite is sealing the deal.
Yeah, and we had a phenomenal client, Michael Madnick. I just spoke to him, and he was when I met him, he was deflated. I mean, Los Angeles has been pounded with fires, all kinds of stuff, and he's in the entertainment industry, so that got shredded, right? So he's like, Olivia, I just didn't know what to do. I felt like, I had to reinvent myself. And so he was stubborn, right, to let go of the job boards and let go of the old way, and he was very transactional. It took a lot of role playing and coaching, but he has broken through to a director level role in a medical industry. He's still an events planning executive, so he's still doing greatness. It just took learning how to sell and not leverage resume and learning how to really market relational marketing, and it's a big shift, and I'm just really proud of him because I know it was not easy to make that pivot.
That was well deserved, and I think we're really excited, and he's another client, who's been so gracious to give his time back, which is also one of the special things about Career Evolve because I know, Olivia, we have both been told, "Well, if you have people in your network, why do they wanna serve? Do you pay them? Are they, like, on a contract to help?" And we say, "No," but people leaders always want to give back when someone or an organization has gone above and beyond for them. It's the natural relationship social, human aspect of serving and giving. And as we both know, leaders serve, and I think that's also what makes Career Evolved special is because when you over deliver, people are excited to give back, but they do it with standards and they do it with excellence. They don't just say, "Oh, because Ryan and Olivia said, let me see what I can do." No, they do their due diligence. I would love to connect with this person. Let me see how I can help if you're doing the work like anything else because people will reward those who are also giving their best.
Exactly, right, and so I just want to let anyone know if you're listening to this and you're ready to evolve and take back ownership and get empowered in your career, in your job search, and this is really the only way to do it. I've been doing this a decade, helped thousands of executives. You've gotta get focused on getting in front of decision makers. That's a process, that's a skill. If you think you might align with us, I would love to have a conversation with you and spend an hour really diagnosing your problem, getting to the truth. It's a 1-hour call on video. There's no hard pitch, no hard close. I don't play these games, right? I'm really here to serve and I want to find the aligned leaders. I do not invite everyone in because I'm here to protect my brand and my community, but I love what I do. So I would love to meet you. If you just go to www.careerevolved.com/schedule, go ahead, fill out the whole form, and I can't guarantee you a slot. We do have standards, right? We wanna work with leaders who have a proven track record, value, and are targeting that leadership role. But if that's you, I'd love to meet you and see if we can help or at least get you some clarity and on the right track. So, Ryan, thanks again. Any final parting words of inspiration or hope for the group?
And no, I mean, I think the best thing to say is the fact that, I'm just gonna quote your hat, faith over fear. You know, process is great and our process works, but um, faith over fear is always going to be the truth. So I'm just going to piggyback on that powerful statement because it's something I live my own life by.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again and appreciate you sharing.